Welcome to Money Making Conversation. I am your host, Rashawn McDonald. Like I tell everybody every week, I want you to stop reading other people's success stories and really start writing your own. And I always tell people you have a passion, lead with your gifts. And don't let your age, friends, family, or coworkers stop you from planning or actually living your dreams. On my show, I interview celebrities, CEOs, entrepreneurs, and what I like to call industry decision makers. Today, my guest is one of my favorite people on the Food Network channel. Any channel that deals with food is Duff Goldman. When his dream of rock stardom wasn't paying the bills, like my dream of being a comedian wasn't paying the bill, he turned his pastry talents and founded Charm City Cakes in Baltimore, Maryland in 2002. He's an entrepreneur. His cakes are sold on Goldbelly and are available nationwide through shipping. And you also can buy Duff Cake Mix. He recently released his first kids cookbook, Super Good Baking for Kids. And in 2021, he became a proud papa, which I love to talk about. Boy, it changes your life. I got an only daughter that changed my life. Duff is on the show to talk about his new Discovery Plus original series, Duff's Happy Fun Bake Time, premiering April 29th on Discovery Plus. Please welcome to Money Making Conversation. He's going to make me smile. I know he is. Duff Goldman. How you doing, sir? Got the t-shirt on,
How you
Duff?
doing, Rashawn?
You just marketing all. You got the t-shirt on. I don't know what kind of bull you got on your shirt there. You just doing it. Looking good, man. How you doing, proud papa? Let's talk about that, being a proud papa, man.
Oh man, so we have a daughter. She is 3 months old, and I feel like I finally have purpose in my life. I understand now the reason why they put me on this earth. It was to be a daddy. I love it. I just love it.
It's really amazing. I know, fortunate to have a daughter, and as well. And just the it's just unconditional love, and then you get to that part, Duff, where, you can't hurt them, even though they fall, they can't sit up because they don't have a spine yet strong enough to hold them up. And the whole process is it really does give you a sense of purpose, man, because not saying you don't have it, but it gives you a future. It becomes part of your, you have a purpose of planning this young child, 18 years, all the years that you've had in your head about your life that people have talked about, now it's being transferred into this child. Tell us about it.
Well, there's something about like raising a child, and then you think about like my own childhood. I'm like, okay, what do I like about myself, and how do I foster that into her, and what would I like to not have? Like, we all have things where we're critical of ourselves, and how do you, when you're raising a child, like how do you make sure that they are equipped with the things that will help them through those problems better than you were when you were trying to figure that out, and just trying to understand, like, how do I articulate these things to my child as she's growing up?
Yeah, that's important because you're moving your industry has always been adult driven. It's now kind of moving in that direction of children. And I'm gonna tell you something. I've watched the show. We're gonna talk about. I'm gonna jump around a little bit because I'm talking really moving into the Duff Happy Fun Bake Time, because they sent me a bunch of clips of the show because it premieres this month. And so when I watched the clips, what audience are you? Let me ask you first. What audience are you shooting for the show? Let me ask you that first.
So I really want everybody to watch it. Okay. I want kids to watch it. I want their parents to watch it with them. I wanted it to be like not just tolerable, but really enjoyable for adults. But I want people who don't have kids to watch it too. And my last cookbook was for kids, and I wrote that book especially so if kids get it, they're going to be stoked. If adults get it, they're going to be stoked too, because all the recipes are real. I tend to find that if I talk to kids and adults the same, like if I talk to the kids like adults, kids respond much better. When you really kind of like slow it way down and really talk down, kids tune out. They're like, I don't got time for that.
Right.
And so hopefully for Duff Happy Fun Bake Time, I hope everybody across the spectrum loves it. High school kids, college kids, adults, kids, parents, everybody.
Well, I think it's going to be a big hit with millennials, because millennials are into that, do it yourself. They're used to the podcast. They grew up on the video, the YouTube. So they're used to watching stuff and being told what to do through a screen, and also until some adult telling them what to do. But I'm gonna tell you, watching the videos, one thing I did notice is it's really good is that because you're moving kind of slow, because you're dealing with Jim Henson characters around you have to respond back to them. It really helped me, and I can bake and I can cook. But when I normally watch TV, you guys are so smooth, y'all so fast that sometimes you have to put pause. And really, watching you don't have to put you can almost follow you and bake it at the same time, right?
Oh, that's good. One of the things that I try to do, and we do it on Happy Fun Bake Time too, whenever I'm cooking on television, I always tell them, leave the mistakes in. If I make a mistake, I want everybody to see it, and then they can hear me talk myself through it. And that way, like when I'm learning, if I do something, I'm like, okay, I messed this thing up. I need to think about my process. I need to think about what I'm doing. I do it out loud, and I talk through my thought process, and that way everybody at home understands how I'm thinking about that, and it becomes an opportunity there and not a mistake anymore. Now everybody's learning. Good.
Well, I thought that was really important that I got that out to you because, videos of, you have these little quick videos on Buzz and all BuzzFeed and all that stuff. They move so fast, you have to pause. Watching your show or the clips that they sent to me of your show, I was like, wow, I could actually simultaneously do this as he's doing it. And I'm an adult. So that's why I asked you earlier, who are you really playing to? If you're playing for kids, I think a lot of adults are going to glob into, going to watch this show because I can follow it. And it's very important.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I really think that the tone of it's very funny. My sort of biggest influences are I like everything absurdist. So, Monty Python, Kids in the Hall, things like that. I love Pee-wee's Playhouse growing up. That was another sort of big influence, and I just Pee-wee's, Paul Rubens' just imagination is just through the roof. I just love the way he thinks. And so, there's a lot of those kind of influences really went into the show. And when you watch it, there's some really absurd, silly, fun stuff. Like there are 6 eggs in the refrigerator that are puppets. Each one of them is a different grandmother. Right. And so anytime I open the fridge, all the grandmothers, they kind of, yell at me, and it's really funny. It's really, really funny.
Okay, so you got to start. Let's talk about these characters. You got Couscous, Dizzy, Edgar, Slater, Dragon Oven, and your boy Jeff. So let's talk about let's talk about each one of those characters because off air, and I got to bring it on air. I'm a little older than you. It reminded me of watching a great cooking version of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. It reminded me of Captain Kangaroo. And, so it was refreshing watching this show. But I also know, it's a risk too, because it can come across as silly. It can come, what is he doing? He looks crazy. But it really comes across as entertaining. And you have a really good sense of humor and perfect comic timing. Perfect comic timing.
Thank you. I grew up listening to comedic records. My parents had a lot of comedy on records, and I used to listen to them over and over again. And I think I developed my comedic timing relatively early without even thinking about it. So, all the characters there, let's start with Jeff. So Jeff is my real life, partner, chef de cuisine. I mean, he's been my sous chef since, almost day one.
Yes.
I started Charm City Cakes in 2002. Jeff started working for me in 2003. And we've known each other since college. We've been friends forever. And and Jeff is also a musician. I'm a musician. A lot of the people, when we started Charm City Cakes, it was all my friends who were in bands who needed a job. And so we started this bakery so we could all work. And so Jeff is in Happy Fun Bake Time. He's the purveyor. So whenever I need ingredients, flour, butter, whatever, Jeff shows up and brings it to me. But Jeff is also an amazing singer-songwriter. So every time Jeff comes and drops off the groceries, he pulls out a guitar or a ukulele or something, and he sings a song about whatever it is that we're doing in the kitchen. And it was just kind of like a fun way to sort of get Jeff's other talent besides cake decorating, as part of the show. Because music is a big, big part of it too.
Yeah, and now we have now Jim Henson. We cannot forget. Let's go back to all these puppets that are powered by Jim Henson's genius, his brand genius. And now you, Duff. Okay, did the idea come to you, or did you pitch the idea to them? And then let's talk about these characters that were developed around you while you were doing these cooking sessions and baking sessions.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I was in my apartment and I was baking and I was watching Sesame Street. I watch a lot of kid shows. Like, just I really do enjoy them. Like, not just as research or anything. I like watching Sesame Street. It's a fantastic show. And so I was baking and I'm watching TV and baking and I'm like looking at it and I was like, this would be a really good idea, right? Baking and, having puppets and like being able to do all like the really conceptual, beautiful artwork that they did on Sesame Street. So I wrote basically I wrote the first episode, right? My wife and I created these characters and we kind of came up with like how we're explaining the science of how an egg works.
Right.
And then I wrote this whole thing and I brought it to Jim Henson, the Jim Henson Company. And I was like, hey, here's my idea. And I kind of like acted out the whole show. And they were like, yes, we want to make that.
Wow.
And then we brought it to Food Network and we brought it to Discovery and we're like, hey, I got this idea. It's not like, there's no scripted television on Food Network or really on any Discovery. And I was like, I really want to do this show. I think it's great. And they were like, we do too. Let's make it. I'm like, oh my goodness. Yeah. Like, you understand how this business works. Like, the fact that something this different and kind of, just like there's not really a model for what we did. The fact that something like this got made is, it's 1,000,000 to 1. And,
that's the power. That's the power of streaming television. Because if it was like if it was on what we slot this on the cooking channel, what we slot this on the Food Network. But in streaming, everything's a category, and you're a brand. So they go, well, this is Duff's new show. And I just love the fact that, I know you said Sesame Street. And the reason I went with Captain Kangaroo and I went with, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood is because there was individuals. And I was just saying, it's just me just talking about your talent. And you're just a charismatic, fun, entertaining guy, And we're going to talk about Charm City in a minute because the fact that evolved around just individuals who just thought out of the box in the kitchen is amazing to me. But that's why I thought that it was special because, every era, every 20 years, there's a new individual that comes along that just really separates himself in that educational platform. Because this is what this really is. It's education for the young people to make them understand and be safe in the kitchen because you teach all those tips. And you have all these devices that the oven talks and all these things and the robot sitting right next to you with the big eyeballs and all these different things. And Slater, the slow moving sloth is over there just hanging off on you. That really and it helps me out. And I think that because you're a new father now, this is even more exciting because of the fact that it's going to repeat, and your child's going to grow up on this, and you're going to have a whole new army of bakers and cooks because of you, Duff.
I love it. Well, it's nice. Like, so with all the other characters, so Couscous is my sous chef, and Couscous is really in charge of the kitchen. She is a robot that I made out of old kitchen parts, and she kind of keeps the rest of us in line because everybody else is a little crazy, including me. So there's a blue crab from Chesapeake Bay. I wanted to give a little nod to Baltimore. So there's a blue crab who's real crabby, and another little nod to Baltimore. His name is Edgar, after Edgar Allan Poe, who was born in Baltimore. And then let's see, there's Slater, who's kind of like the slacker sloth who lives in the ceiling and he kind of comes down every once in a while. And the nice thing about Slater is that he's the one that's asking a lot of questions, right? He'll be like, why are you doing that? What's going on here? Why are we going to stick that thing in the mixer? He's always asking questions. And so by asking questions, he gets me to sort of like, say the things that are really kind of the meat. Of like, well, let me show you how eggs work. Let me show you how the gluten in flour makes pasta chewy, things like that. There's also our oven is a dragon and he bakes everything in his mouth. So when we need to bake something, he gives a big roar and steam comes out. We put the food in his mouth, he closes it, he bakes it, and then we pull it back out.
Love it.
I love that.
The beauty of it.
The mixer is, I was looking at my mixer and I was like, okay, I'm going to need a mixer. And I was kind of thinking of Cherry from Pee-wee's Playhouse, the big chair that talks. And I was trying to think of what does mixer look like? And I just thought, what if it was an elephant, right? Like,
Right.
you can kind of see this with big ears. And then she would mix everything. She mixes everything with her trunk.
Right.
Yeah.
I
It just makes sense.
Duff, you probably say this guy is really too engaged with this show, but I am, because I'm excited about what you're doing, because first of all, it's a lot of hard work because it's scripted. And so you pitch the idea that really, unlike the other shows you've done, which is natural talent, improv, you have a script that you have to memorize, and because when you throw a joke, somebody got to respond to the joke. How much work was involved in the table reads and the scripting of this stuff, and you staying on point with your conversation?
Oh man, I got to say, it was very uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Like I really had to wow, I have to say a thing that I actually have to know what's about to come out of my mouth.
Yes.
Because usually it's just, it's just coming out. Like now I have a specific thing that I have to say. I'm not good at that, and it's funny, when I first pitched the show to Jim Henson Company, I assumed that somebody would be playing the head baker, the person. Mm-hmm. And they're like, no, it's got to be you. And I was like, I'm not an actor. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I'm a cake decorator. Like, it has to be you. And I was like, I'll give it a shot, so we did, but it was really difficult, but it was also because the puppeteers are so amazing. You got to remember, these are the best of the best,
right,
in this industry. I mean, these guys, they were, one of the puppet lead on Duff Happy Fun Bake Time was also Augra in The Dark Crystal. And when I found that out, I I got a little starstruck, because I mean, I just, the puppeteers that were on the show were just really, really good. And one of the things that they're great at is improv. And, I am a total newbie. I've never acted. This is the first time I've had to learn lines and interact with, I've never worked with puppets before. I mean, this was all new to me, but they were so good at what they do. They could take somebody that had never been seen any of this world, any of it. And they brought me in and they made me good, Wow. It was magic.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is that, first of all, I'm excited for you. You're a great man.
Thank you.
I love you. But it all started somewhere. And it all started with a madhouse genius. I'm going to use that word. A madhouse genius in 2002 at Charm City Cakes. Can you at least tell my listeners and viewers, how did that come about? And then how did TV discover you?
So I graduated culinary school in 97, and I was working in hotels and restaurants, and I was basically just driving around the country, kind of bumming and doing different things, just trying things out. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to cook, but I wasn't sure, did I want to be a pastry chef at a hotel? Did I want to work in a bakery? Did I want to own a bakery? Did I want to work in a cake shop or a restaurant? Did I want to be a pastry chef in a 5-star, really crazy place? I didn't know where I fit. And eventually I got back to Baltimore, and I was working as a personal chef for a family, and they had 4 kids, and I was really good with the kids. So that was kind of where I first realized, I was like, I don't know why, but for some reason kids respond to me. But then I kind of wanted to put my cooking career on hold, because I'm also a musician, and I wanted to see if I could actually make it as a working, musician in a rock band. Mm-hmm. So I quit my job and I started making cakes in my apartment so I could pay the rent while I was becoming, a big famous rock star.
Right.
And so I'm still waiting for that to happen. But I was just making cakes in my apartment, and Baltimore's not a big city, right? It's a medium-sized city, and so when somebody who's in their early 20s, covered in tattoos, who's in a rock band, is making really beautiful wedding cakes, people talk about it. They're like, well, that's weird. And then so I started getting more business, and people started realizing oh, this guy's actually good at what he does. And then, so then I hired my friend Jeff, and then I hired a bunch of other of my friends. Some of them were going to art school in Baltimore, but they were all friends from kind of the music and art community of Baltimore. It's a very, very tight community. Well, then we got a call from Food Network. They wanted us to compete on one of the competition shows. And so Jeff and I were like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And so we went and we competed. And we failed. I think we're at like third or fourth place. Did not make a big splash as far as like our cake decorating skills go.
Right.
But we're really funny. So we kind of have like a very natural banter. We've known each other forever. And, so he's kind of like the straight man. I'm the kind of wild man. And they liked us, like, hey, do you want to compete, on another one? And I was like, well, we didn't win. And they're like, it doesn't matter. You guys are great. You're funny. So they kept having us on, even though we never win, right? We never won. We weren't even like, top three. Like we're always, kind of floating around the middle. A couple of times we were all the way at the bottom, like our cakes would fall apart, things would catch on fire and stuff. But they were like, you guys are great TV. So then they wanted to shoot some B-roll. So in TV, B-roll is like the kind of like the footage that somebody talks over. And so if you're seeing a cityscape, but you hear somebody's voice, that's B-roll, right? So they wanted to get some B-roll in the bakery. And so when they came to the bakery, everybody in there was either in a rock band or was going to art school. So everybody was very unique, right? A lot of tattoos, a lot of weird color hair, a lot of, people just dress weird. Like we're just, a bunch of weirdos. And so they were like filming. They're like, oh, there's a whole bunch of you guys. We should do a show in your bakery because we've never seen anything like this. There's a bunch of weird art kids with, power tools on the wall making insane cakes.
Wow. Well, you're brilliant, my man. You're a genius. Discovery Plus original series, Duff's Happy Fun Bake Time, premieres April 29th. Thank you for the conversation. Thank you for allowing me to speak to somebody I consider a genius in the baking and the culinary, in that world that I aspire to. You say you want to be a rock star? I want to be a bake star. How about that?
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Well, Rashawn, if you're ever out in LA, man, look me up. Come on over. Let's have dinner. You sound super cool.
I appreciate it. You will be you did my boy Stephen A's show today, right? You're doing this show. You did this show, right? Stephen A.
Yeah,
that's my boy.
Totally.
That's my TV show too. I executive produced that show.
Oh, cool. Right. He's amazing.
Yeah. So I got love for you, Duff. I got love for you, okay?
Thank you.
All right.
I appreciate it.
I got to let you go, man. They pressing me. I appreciate you. Talk soon. Bye-bye.
All right, buddy. See you soon. Bye.
Okay, if you want to hear or see any more of my interviews, please go to moneymakingconversation.com. I'm Rashawn McDonald. I am your host.